This will be a 200 for 7 minutes to voice. At the time of your deposition, I believe you said that you had testified in 2 cases prior to that time as an expert. Is that correct? That is correct. And is that also correct today? In terms of testimony in court, that is correct. One of those was testimony about an oil well rig involving some mechanical failure. That is correct. And the other was a plumbing situation, a missile launcher. Is that correct? Yes, ma'am, that's correct. At the time of your deposition, you had had experience at that time or were working on 3 automobile cases. Is that correct? I believe that is correct. How many of those involved single car accidents? None involved single car accidents. One involved an auto pedestrian accident. Were you asked to reconstruct the accident? Yes, I was. I believe you said one defense firm had called you in relation to a bus accident. That is correct. You had done no work on it. No, the case hadn't started yet, as far as I was concerned. Doctor, prior to April, had you ever conducted any accident reconstruction tests? Not with respect to automobiles. Your work has been primarily limited to aircraft and spacecraft and the associate technologies. When your deposition was taken, had you looked at a couple of films that were made at the university in relation to accident reconstruction? At that time, it was not to prepare me to testify in court here. All right, since March 7, when your deposition was taken, how many hours have you put in this case? I can't give you an exact number. I don't have my timesheets with me. It must be on the order of 100. You have billed for that time. We have billed for everything up to April. I don't think we sent a bill since then. At the time of your deposition, had you put in about 90 hours? Is that correct? That could be. You know better than I do. Doctor, insofar as this case is concerned, when were you first called in on it? I believe the last week in January was the first time I heard of the case. At that time, were you furnished a copy of Mr. Carter's report? I was furnished many documents. That was one of them. And were you furnished pictures at that time that Mr. Carter had taken? Yes, I was. And were you furnished the parts that you have here in court? I was furnished several of those parts that we have in court. I don't know whether I was furnished all of them. Were you furnished the wheel and tire? I did not see those until they were here in court. I think I saw them for a couple of minutes, a couple of weeks ago before they were here in court. Insofar as the parts that you were furnished at that time, can you tell me what parts you were given? Yes, I was given the power steering pump bracket. Did you ever see any spacer that was mounted with a bracket? No. What part of the automobile received the major impact damage? All I know is what I have seen in those pictures. Where do you determine that to be? Just casually looking at the pictures, there appears to be major damage on the right. The entire front appears to be damaged. Was the frame pushed to the right in the front end? I don't know how I could tell that by looking at those pictures. The camera was at such a funny angle, and I can't see that very well. Was the station wagon on the east side of the roadway when you arrived? Yes, sir, it was. Was the front end of the station wagon pointing toward or away from the east curb, towards the east curb? Have you shown that in your diagram? Yes, sir. Could you now draw on this map the position of the station wagon as it was at the point of rest when you arrived? I don't recall whether it was against the curb or possibly a foot or so from the curb. Is it your best recollection that it was close to the curb, either against it or within a foot or two of the curb? Yes, sir, that's correct. Was the rear end of the station wagon slightly to the north of the front end of the station wagon? Possibly. I have no independent recollection of this. Is the area where this accident occurred fairly well lit? Yes, sir, it is. After you arrived and conducted an investigation of the accident, did you or your partner assist Mrs. Hall in going from the accident location to her home? Yes, sir, that's correct. Did one of you drive the station wagon from the accident location to Mrs. Hall's home? Yes, sir, I did. Was her home close to the place where this accident occurred? Yes, sir. Did you drive the station wagon from the accident location to her home? Yes, sir, I did. To do that, was it necessary for you to get into the driver's seat of the station wagon? That's correct. You have indicated the area was well lit. Is that correct, sir? Yes, sir. Was an ambulance present when you arrived? Yes, sir. Did the ambulance approach the area from the north? I'm assuming it did. It was parked just south of the vehicle in question. Do you recall whether it had its lights on? Yes, it did. When you parked your vehicle, did you park south of the station wagon? Yes. Were the headlights on your vehicle shining towards the station wagon? Yes, sir. Do you know whether or not Mrs. Hall requested or was offered medical assistance by the ambulance personnel? Yes, sir. Do you know whether she declined or accepted medical assistance from the ambulance personnel? She refused medical assistance. Do you recall whether you or your partner also asked her if she would accept medical assistance? I have no independent recollection of this. When you got into the station wagon before driving to Mrs. Hall's home, was it necessary for you to familiarize yourself with the control systems in the station wagon? Yes, sir. Did this include the location of the accelerator pedal? Yes. The brake pedal? Yes. The steering gear adjusting lever? Yes. The hand brake? Yes. When you sat in the car, familiarizing yourself with the car, did you have the door open so that the lights inside the car would be on? I don't recall whether I had the door open or not after I sat down. Do these appear to you to represent Deep Canyon at the time of the accident? As I have known Deep Canyon, over what period of time? The last 6 years. To your knowledge, have you ever been or seen any changes in the roadway in Deep Canyon over the last 6 years? Not to my knowledge. Have you inspected Deep Canyon over the last 6 years to see if there have been any changes? No, sir, I have not. Do you know whether there have been or not? I do not know. Do you know whether the course of Deep Canyon has been changed at all in the last 6 years? Not to my knowledge.